welcome to Next Level Life. I believe this teaching we're about to bring you is going to help you achieve the goals, the dreams, the visions that you have. And we're going to talk about improving your thought life. We're going to teach you about how to cast a vision out for your life. Lots of great things you're going to be taught. So make sure you watch and tune in at the close for more information. Let's go now and watch this teaching.
So just a little history about me. Born and raised in Marietta, Georgia, or we say Mayretta, Georgia, which is a little city right outside of Atlanta. It's not little anymore. It's grown since the last time I left. But I left there in 1985. My mother and father, they separated, they divorced, and at that time, I don't know if you heard, there was missing and murdered children going on in Georgia at that time, and Wayne Williams was convicted of that way back then. But then it was a real tiring time for us because kids, you get off the school bus and you went home, right? You couldn't be out and play, and so literally at 5:30 you were in the house. So with that was going on, my dad said, hey, I'm moving to a state called Kentucky, which I couldn't even identify where that was on the map at the time. And I said, what the heck, why not? Let's go. So I moved here with my dad, and we lived a bachelor's life for probably 2 years. But I think that was a moment in my life to where I recognized that hard work paid off, because my dad at the time was a real estate agent. So I learned the city real quick. I knew south end of town all the way to the east end of town to the west end of town. So I learned the city pretty quick because I would go to school, he would pick me up. And if you know a real estate agent, you have a life your work really is after everybody else is doing work. You do your showings and all of that. So basic principles of working hard and understanding sales, I saw my father in action in doing that and became very successful. Definitely sold real estate from houses, then he moved into commercial, and that's when the money really started paying off for him, when he moved to commercial sales. After that, went to spend some time at Eastern for a little bit of time, then I came back and I started working for my grandfather-in-law, which some of you may or may not know, but Uncle Juan is what I call him. Juan Burns is actually my uncle by marriage. And he and I kind of just gelled together from that. It wasn't like, hey, this is my step-grandson or my step-nephew or anything. It was just Uncle Juan. And fast forward, he was real happy that I joined this church and became a part of this church. And as you probably know, he's been loyal to Pastor Steve and to this church for many, many years. And when we got an opportunity to come to this church, invited by Dee and Ken Howard, I knew the church really well because that's where Uncle Juan attended. And I knew there was a good opportunity there for us to grow in faith and our belief. So that's kind of history about me and kind of where I'm at, fast forward. Now, as it relates to my career, working for Uncle Juan's father, which is Tommy Burns, we got into a business that was for convenience stores. And then fast forward into technology to where I had the first conversion of, it was all just cash register based. You punch in the actual price of the product and then all of a sudden it registered out. Then we switched to where you can read barcodes. That's what we do now. You scan the barcode and all that information is there. So I helped the company transform the convenience stores to that. So I became technology savvy in that. Then I jumped into the technology field, had a job with a couple of IT companies, and then I ended up with the one that I'm with to there. And my entire career through that, I started as a sales rep, and I just knew I had to be disciplined and obedient to the process that was being coached to me. So I just took that and absorbed it, and that became the foundation that I teach others on. So what I'm going to go through tonight is just a couple of basic principles that I lay out for my veteran people that are producing very well, doing well over six figures, to people that are baseline coming into our organization that averages about $30,000, right? So here's the basic principles that we go through. So the first thing I always tell them, right, wrong, and different for them, I tell them that you need to pray. Bottom line, I pray every time I go into a business meeting that God gives me the ability to be the best that I can during that period of time, right? And even when I wake up in the morning, that's the first thing that I do. And it's not like long, drawn-out prayer. Thank you for the basic things that we take for granted, right? Waking me up this morning, allow me to breathe, the roof over my head, my family, my daughter, and ask for those basic things that need to be done. And I give thanks to all those things that we have through that process. The other thing that I do, and I think I shared this with some folks before, is that I try every day to take communion. As some of you guys may know, I travel a lot, so it's kind of hard. I have Father's Day coming up, and I have my birthday coming up. So on my list is a travel communion pack to take with me, right? So hopefully I'm good enough that Tanya delivers that to me through that process. But I need that, because I'll go 3 and 4 days out, and I don't have that communion aspect, and I can tell things are a little different for me doing that process. So the communion piece is something that I definitely embrace and take every day. The last part here, keep Jesus in all things that you do, right? I mean, it has to be the number one thing. You know, whether I am ready to fire somebody or I'm ready to hire somebody, I have to keep that basic principle in there. That person can be upset because I'm letting them go, but I have to understand that I'm a man of a higher belief and higher understanding of who gave all these things to us through that process. The other piece I will say is, when I pray, I hear God, and he tells me, you know, just do your best and I'll do the rest, right? Do your best in everything that you do, and he's going to handle the rest. So keep that basic principle as you go through this. The other piece, this is where I get into kind of what I tell my team that I have. And this is the bottom line. It starts with your attitude. Attitude determines the altitude. You guys probably heard that 100 times, but it is truly that. If you come in with a bad attitude, you're going to get bad results. If you come in with an intriguing attitude, you're going to get intriguing results. If you come in with a determined attitude, you're going to get determined results. So it really just sets the stage. And I tell them, I will, I must, and I am going to. Those are key words. I can't is not a word. I don't understand is okay, right? And that helps us bring clarity to it. But I will, I must, and I am going to. Those are critical words that you need to start. I think probably a few months back, not even a month, but maybe a month or so back, we had Law of Confession, right? About speaking words, right? If you start out, I can't, I don't understand, maybe not understand, but I don't know how, those are just negative words that already sets the tone of you trying to do whatever you're trying to accomplish. That making sense? Mm-hmm. Good. The last one I'll always say is this. Don't let your history, environment, and limitations define you. Most people say, well, this is the environment I was brought up in. Well, my history has all of this. You define your own limitations, right? You have the opportunity to change anything that you do. You know, I think I shared before that I mentor young boys, and one of the struggles with them, it's, well, I don't have, or I can't do this. But you can be the first one to do something different inside your family, right? You didn't have to be limited to what you see or what you hear or even what you were taught. There's no disrespect to anybody in the past, in the history, but there was limitations back then in history that didn't allow certain things to happen today. You know, I tell the kids I mentor, your phone, you have great power right there at your fingertips. You know, and if you roll the tape 20 years ago, 30 years ago, 50 years ago, it wasn't that, right? The example I use with them, I remember walking down my grandmother's long hallway, and I walked to the end of the hall, and there was this thing called encyclopedias, right? That's how I did my book report, right? Even though I copied word for word, that became the book report, right? Now you take 2 clicks and you got a report, or you can actually Google and find a report that's already been recreated for you. So think about the times and how it's totally changed in that. So make sense? Yeah. Discipline, obedient. The biggest one here is you're self-accountable. Don't worry about what everybody else says. Hold yourself accountable to whatever plan that you have, right? Don't let anything get in your way. Kobe Bryant, he has mentality called Mamba mentality. You guys may have heard of that since, you know, he passed away. But I will tell you, him in the helicopter the first time wasn't his first time. He had been flying in a helicopter ever since he hit the NBA. And his whole intent of flying in a helicopter was the LA traffic. From his house to Staples Center and to his training facility, it was a one-way trip for about 2 hours. Once his oldest daughter that was in the helicopter with him passed away, he said, I need to change how to spend time with my daughter because I want to be there, but I'm not going to let anything impact what I'm trying to do in the NBA, to be the greatest basketball player. Now think about that. Brand new born child. We all going to change our life to really just be there for that child, right? But this is a father that says, I still want to become the greatest player in the NBA. How do I balance loving and caring for my child and being there for her and still get my goal accomplished? He said, I'm going to basically have a helicopter. Now, we all can't just go and say we're going to have a helicopter, right? But think about just that mentality, right? Nothing is going to prohibit me from getting to my goal of being successful in the NBA. Even my newborn child. So him making that adjustment of jumping in a helicopter, flying in and working out for 2 hours, 15-minute flight back home was enough time for him to be there for his kids and watch them to go through that process. Don't know if you knew that about him through that process, but that's just the mentality he had about nothing is going to prohibit me from being great at what I do. And I think that's the great, strong mentality to where whatever you choose to do, there's going to be ups and downs. There are going to be newborn babies that come into your life that wants to change things. What are you going to do to continue to stay focused on what your goals are through that process? All right? 3 C's. This is what I tell my team. You got to be coachable. You got to have courage, and you got to have commitment. Coachable. You got to be ready to learn new things, right? At all times. I don't care if you got 20 years of history in what we do, or you are the best baker or the best flour maker, whatever it may be, there's always something we can learn. As we know, technology is advancing so much, there's a better way to skin the cat, right? There's a better way to do things. And you have to be coachable through that process, right? Courage. I will tell you, I probably interview on average on a given month 4 people. And that's not a lot, but it's a lot for me, but it's not a lot. But I am amazed that people just don't have the courage to specifically ask for the job at the end of the interview. You have to have courage to ask for certain things that you want in your life and not be afraid of those. You know, we'll go through a whole profile analysis, tell them to paint a picture about their history and why should they have the job. And then I'm waiting for them to ask, because for me, that's a buying sign of a good salesperson if they ask for the job right then and there. And if they don't do that, I kind of push them to ask, but if I push them, that kind of makes them come to the bottom of the barrel for a candidate that I want to hire, right? Because if you really want something, you got to have the courage to ask for it through that process. Then final commitment. You got to be committed to whatever you do, right? There's going to be highs, there's going to be lows, there's going to be ups and downs. Whatever that process is that you're going through, you got to be committed to it. There's going to be opportunities that come up that take you away from that, but you definitely have to be committed to that process that you're going to have. A couple other things. This one here, and I got a chart and I'll pass this out. It's called Reduce It to the Ridiculous. So there's a thing that we call BHAG. Anybody knows what that acronym stands for? BHAG. Big, hairy, audacious goal, right? At our company, we put that down and we want to dream big, right? And I pass this on to you, to whatever your big, hairy, audacious goal is, right? Pick something big. Pastor said in many sermons before, to where we should have goals that are humongous goals, right? Big goals. And that's what we should be expecting to be blessed with. But you got to be disciplined enough to have those. And part of that is what you're getting right now is called the 4 quadrant of importance. Number 1 quadrant is things that you have to do to get to that BHAG every single day. This is a modified version that I use for the team. But in the quadrant number 1, I call it daily tasks that you have to do. These are daily tasks that you have to do on a daily basis. Quadrant number 2 is something that we consider to do on a weekly basis, right? And then quadrant number 3 and 4, it could be monthly or quarterly basis. But the quadrant number 3 and 4, as you can see, those are time-wasting things that we all, and even myself, we get caught up in doing, right? It almost gets to the point of being procrastination, a reason not to get to quadrant number 1 or number 2. And we have to not be focused on those areas in our lives at all. It chews up so much time. I think the last session we had, somebody was talking about just scrolling through your social media accounts or whatever. You say, I'm going to jump on this thing for 5 minutes. Next thing you look up, it's 45 minutes, an hour done passed by, right? Think about what you could have got accomplished in quadrant number 1 or quadrant number 2 to meet those things, okay? Any questions about the quadrant piece there?
Where do you want to spend the most time?
The most time you want to spend is between 2 and 1. Yep. Because you're going to put your big, hairy, audacious goal out there, and then what I call it is reduce it to the ridiculous, to where what task in quadrant number 1 do you need to accomplish on a daily basis to actually get that goal accomplished, right? Back to the kids I mentor, you know, some of them want to go to college, some of them wants to be the next Kobe Bryant, whatever that may be. And I'm okay with whatever your dream and big, hairy, audacious goal is. But what are you doing in quadrant number 1 to do that? To be like a Kobe Bryant put up 1,500 shots a day, right? Do you have the bandwidth and the time to put up 1,500 shots a day? Tiger Woods, he hits over 2,000 golf balls a day. That was before his back and all those issues, but that's what he was doing to be great at what he does. If you want to be great at math, you have to focus on all the different math formulas that's out there on a daily basis and understand those things and being able to really reduce it to the ridiculous. You know, we take a lot of the goals that we establish at our company, and that's truly what we do. We break them down to where those are things that are task level things that need to be done on a daily and weekly basis to get those big goals. And then also, once we get those simple tasks completed, there's a celebration, right? Hey, we got this 15 thing done, right? Now we need to go the next 15, next 16 through 30. Once we hit 30, we have a little bit of celebration through that process. And that's what you should do in your own personal life as you set goals for yourself. Okay? Last thing is I'll leave you with this. Limitations are self-imposed. If you think you can or you think you can't, you're probably right. Yep. It's one of the things I tell Brooklyn. She says, I can't do it, Dad. Well, if you're thinking that way, you're probably right. I want to try. Yeah, let's try it and see what the results are, right? And then you make adjustments from those results once you have those things done in place. Okay? I'll take a minute to answer any questions, but thank you. Anytime you want to talk, this is my mobile number, and here's my actually Trinity email address. Feel free, I have access to that. So any guidance, any direction, I'm more than happy to assist you with that. So.
Can you go back to the slide?
Yes, ma'am. Mm-hmm.
Reggie, why do you think people put limitations on themselves? Why is that self-limiting?
I think most of it comes in environment and truly what we've been taught, right?
I think that's true. Yeah.
Very, very limited to that. You know, one of the things that I keep saying to the mentor of my boys, because I got a big mentoring session with them, is that most of the boys I mentor are black boys, African-American boys. And I tell them that they have to have courage and take the limitations off themselves. But I painted the picture for them to say, all right, let's roll the tape back. Who did you learn all of what you know from, most of what you know from? Their mother, their grandmother, whoever that may be, right? Their mother. Then who did she learn from? Her grandmother, right? And then you take it back one more generation, this is a great-grandmother. And then quite frankly, at that time, it was slavery going on. So you start in slavery, the expectations at that time was just survival, right? I just needed to survive. You weren't going to be able to read, you weren't going to get arithmetic. Then you were able to read and get an understanding a little bit. So the limitations have already been imposed on you What are you going to do now to do something different, right? Right? And quite frankly, it's the challenge with them is just recognizing that that's a problem with you, right? You have to understand where you came from, because if you're going to try to be coachable through that process, you have to say, hey, I know I'm limited there because I haven't had this wealth of training or this wealth of education through that process. So now I have to make myself understand and educate myself through that process. Making sense?
It's good.
Yep. Good.
How's everybody doing?
Amen.
Amen. Good to see y'all. My apologies for being tardy. As Pastor said, I was actually with my daughter Kennedy at Indiana University and did a campus tour and a visit, and it was interesting. The last time I was there was 1993. And it was funny because I was trying to remember some things back in 1993, what I was doing, and then I had to think about something else. And then I'm talking about education-wise. But it's interesting talking about assignments. I was on a different, I wasn't even on an assignment then, at least not at that point in time, but my faith level was certainly low. But it's amazing what God will take you through. And all those experiences, most of them I would not change, but they are the contributors to who I am and what I am today. So that's a good segue, and I love that message about your assignment, and that is, think about assignments is sometimes we get in situations where we're in positions when we're not in our assignment. But I think God allows that to happen because even if it's not something that's part of your assignment, not in your assignment, it can be a part of your assignment. What's that saying? That I don't lose, I learn. So I know many of you are probably in positions and roles that you feel are not a good fit, and I'm like, what, Lord, why am I doing here? There's a lesson in whatever it is that you're doing. And no matter how much pain and grief is causing you, God will get glory out of that. Romans 8:28 says, all things work together for the good of those who love the Lord, the good and the bad. So I encourage you, on the front end of what I'm going to say, that whatever you're going through, know that it's just part of what you're going to discover in your world. But hang in there. It's going to be all right. So this is real, I'm not going to go into a lot of this, but as Pastor said, I've been in the IT and healthcare industries for my whole life, really, since I graduated from college. Been in a lot of interesting places and spaces. I used to work for the CFO for Humana. Had a lot of interesting visibility to a lot of people in high levels and positions. But at the end of the day, I realized that no matter what your title was, and no matter how high or how low it was, if you will, people are still people. Yeah. And people are jacked up. Can we just be real? Yeah. People are jacked up. And people need Jesus. I don't care if you're in the boardroom, if you're pushing a broom, you need Jesus. Right. And so what I'm going to share with you today is my journeys and my travels and the things that I've seen, but the lessons that I learned as a result of being in the marketplace. And again, it's there's been a lot of side steps that I've made. There's been some missteps. But at the end of the day, I would not be who I am today unless I had that experience. That's just a little bit about me. We'll go to the next slide that I can turn to. So I just want to talk about 5 keys to success. Again, this is 24 years plus of this me experiencing things. You get the benefit of my misfortunes and my fortunes. But I hope you take it to heart, and I think it's apropos to what Pastor's been teaching us the last several weeks, as well as the things that I think are true and dear to what I think will get you to the next level as you go on your journey. The first thing is always, you got to pray to start your day. I don't know how many times I hear people say, you know what, I didn't have time. I was too busy to pray. How are you too busy to pray?
Amen. Come on.
It's not like you need 6 hours to pray with God. It could be, in fact, I always encourage people, when you wake up, as soon as your eyes open, you should say, thank you, Jesus. Yeah. And good morning, I always say, good morning, Holy Spirit, good morning, Jesus, good morning, Father God. Yes. It's the first thought of my mind and my day to get me going. Because he's the one that allowed me to go to sleep. He's the one that allowed me to wake up. But I always put my eyes on Jesus. And did tell you, I go straight to my prayer closet. And I get on my knees and I pray. One of my favorite prayers is Psalms 91. Yeah. That's something my mother gave me in 1991 when I was going through some stuff. And it's still something today that carries me through any day, any situation. I pray a hedge of protection over my family, over this church, over a pastor and his family. And that's the first thing that comes out of my mouth. But you got to be prayed up, though. Because many times we're going into the marketplace, and it is a cold, dark world. People don't care about you, but Jesus does. Yeah. But you have got to start to have a discipline about who and what you are. No matter what's ahead of you, prayer can change all of that. Many times we go to bed with worry and content and just things in our minds that's toil. But if you just take some moment to pray, watch God shift some stuff.
Come on.
But guess what? Even if he doesn't shift it in the way you think he does, it's still going to be a good day. And tomorrow is something different. Live to fight another day, but start your day in prayer. I've heard people say, well, I tend to do it in the afternoons and evening. I know me, in the first thing in the morning. Get it in. Pray. Set the tone. And watch him do the rest. So pray to start your day. Pastor has shared with us the Command Your Morning book from Cindy Trim. And that's been something that I've been leveraging in my prayer time. And something that she says is that word command means the word command means order with authority and take charge of. So if you're commanding your morning, you're ordering with authority and you are taking charge of. Don't let the world take charge of you. You take charge of the world. You tell your day how it's going to be. I'm about to have a great day today. I know so-and-so's in the booth and she's talking, she's gossiping. You know what? I'm not going to worry about that. I'm going to pray for her though.
Right.
But I'm going to go about my business. Instead of saying, you know what, so-and-so's going to talk my head off. She's going to gossip. He's going to gossip. No. Don't talk about what could happen. Talk about what you want to happen. And prayer will allow you to do that. So another thing, as you're in the marketplace, something that I've done in the past is consider finding out the other believers in your circle.
Good.
I've actually been in prayer Bible studies in the workplace. We'll get to go in a coffee shop, and we'll just huddle up, we'll just talk about the word. That gets you through the rest of that day. But find who the believers are that believe like you. And you'll be amazed that people would love this in the middle of the day. Let's just get together. Let's just pray about something. I remember one time I was with a group of folks, and we were going to have a big presentation with our chief human resource officer. And it was about some topics that we know they didn't want to hear, but they needed to hear it. And the first thing that we did was about 8 of us. We got together, we pulled a circle, and we held hands, and we prayed. Ain't nothing more powerful than seeing a bunch of believers in a marketplace praying to God, taking charge to order what's about to happen in that meeting. And it changed everything. So pray to start your day, first and foremost. Second thing, choose purpose over profit. Thinking about my 1995 self, trying to get out of school, trying to get out of college, the first thing I was thinking about, what can I do that's going to make me a whole bunch of money? Right? That was my priority. I want to get things. I want to get this. I want to get that. I want stuff. But through the course of time and maturity and highs and lows and getting money and losing money and getting it back again, I realized at the end of the day, if I'm not choosing my purpose, the profit is not going to make you happy. Ain't nothing worse than having a bunch of money in the bank and miserable to even spend it. You hear what I'm saying? You can have all the money in the world. What's that say? What is the profit of man if he gains the whole world but loses his soul? Right. Be careful what your why is. What is your why? Why am I at work?
Right.
Am I here just to get a paycheck? Well, if that's the case, then don't be complaining if that's all you get. If you don't get no joy and satisfaction out of it, because you're getting your pay. I'm sure you're getting paid, but where's the joy in that? Right. I understand you got to pay your bills. I'm not knocking that. I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is, if you're chasing something that's not chasing you, then you're going in the wrong direction. Choose your purpose. I love what he was talking about, your assignment. That you don't find your assignment, you discover it. I'm curious, how many of you all feel that you're working in your assignment right now? Just raise your hand. Okay, more than I would have thought. And it's a great thing. Still several hands that are down, but that's okay too. Life's journey is discovering, what am I here for? Because we all have a why. We all have a gift that God has given us. It's written in Jeremiah 29:11. The choice of life is discovering what is that thing that makes me do whatever I do to get up in the morning. I was just talking to Reggie, talking to some kids in 100 Black Men, and they're entrepreneurs. There's about 13 kids. And that's exactly what I told them. They're having grandeurs about, I want to make money, I want to do this. I said, well, choose your purpose over your profit. And if you know what your purpose is, you'll never work a day in your life. So even if you don't know what that is, continue to progress and find out what it is. Ask people, what is it that I'm good at? Find out what gives you joy. Find out what's that thing that you work. Like I think Brother Murdoch said 10, 12 hours, and the time is gone because I was so focused on what I was doing. That's your assignment. And if you stay in that, God will give you all the provisions in life to achieve that goal, but you got to discover it. And make that your life's ambitions. So again, choose your purpose over profits. Money's going to come. God's going to make provisions. But you got to find your purpose first. The third thing, ask yourself, when I'm in the workplace, am I going to be an atmosphere changer? And if you can barely see it, but this is a thermostat, and that's a thermometer.
Yeah.
And there's significant differences. Just real quick, technically, a thermometer reflects the temperature of the environment. It simply reacts to what's happening around it. If the temperature is too hot, it tells you so. If the temperature is too cold, the thermometer tells you so. It's basically a dumb instrument in the sense it doesn't contain intelligent, multi-purpose functionality. It has one purpose and one purpose only. Now, this is the contrast of a thermostat that I've connected to us. A thermostat, on the other hand, regulates the environment. It sets the desired temperature of the room and actively works to maintain it within a given range. If the temperature rises above the goal, the thermostat signals to the air conditioner to crank up and cool the room down. If the temperature falls below the goal, the thermostat causes the heater to turn it on in order to warm up the room. The thermostat is intelligent in the sense it always is monitoring the environment. And if the temperature gets too hot or too cold, it decides what to do to correct the situation. Now, what does that mean for you and me? A thermostat is somebody that goes into work, and let's say people are murmuring and complaining at the water cooler, you join in that conversation. Oh, that leader, I can't stand that leader. Why is she always tripping on me like that? Why she wear that dress, that tight dress all the time? She know better than that. Why I can't stand the people at the work. Why are they making us always doing all these different policy changes? Thermostat. You're just reacting what everybody else is saying. You're feeding right into it. You're complaining when they're complaining. You're murmuring and bickering when everybody else is murmuring and bickering. That's easy to do. It doesn't take much intelligence to do that, to be a follower. But as Christians, we got to be a thermostat, a thermometer. Sorry, a thermostat. Woo, I need a nap. You want to regulate the environment. You want to set the tone. You want to be the one to say, I understand that, I hear what you're saying, but thank God we got a job, though. Or what's the other side of all this darkness? Let me be some light. We're supposed to be the light of the world. Are you shining? Or are you just reflecting what's happening around you? The key to being a Christian in the marketplace is you shouldn't have to wear the sweatshirt with the fish on or your bumper sticker, your TWOC T-shirt. That's cool to have. But I should know you're a Christian, not by your words, but also by your actions. What you're not saying. What you're not freaking out about that everybody's freaking out about. I was in a situation where, in the marketplace, where we had about 2 years, we're going to have potentially a merger with a bigger company. And there was a lot of uncertainty what was going to happen in that window of time. And people were thinking about, oh my God, we're going to get bought out. We're going to lose our jobs. It's going to be devastating to the economy. For 2 years, people murmured and complained, and the atmosphere was toxic to a great degree. And to be honest with you, I fed into that at times. I might even initiated some of those conversations. But in the day, I didn't feel any better. It didn't change anything. Then I said, I got to change my tone. So when somebody would go left, I decided, let's go right. Yeah, we don't know what's going to happen, y'all. Let's don't worry about it. Let's keep your head up. We got work to do. And especially if you're a leader in the marketplace, you cannot champion that flag. You have got to set context and tone to say, we're going to do something different. Because if you, as a leader, don't do that, then the whole team's going to fail. They're going to follow you wherever you go. You jump off a cliff, everybody else is going to follow behind you. But I encourage you, change the atmosphere. Change the tone of where you are. Don't let it change you. You affect it. That comes from the inside out, not from the outside in. You decide, I'm not going for that. No, it's going to be different. Things are going to be different. Everybody, keep your head up. Be encouraged. It's going to be okay. You be that one. The infectiousness of a smile. One smile can light up this whole room. Just like if I was to yawn, I bet you about 5 of you start yawning too. But if I was to smile, you'd be like, it's going to be all right. The house might be on fire, but I'm smiling. You might, it's not that bad. We get another house. It's okay. Right? But if you smile, it changes the environment. Because you're saying, I don't know what's going on, but I know Jesus has got me, and everything is going to be all right. People are looking to you, how you react. Especially if they know you're a Christian. They're watching you. How you react in that situation. And if you're acting just like them, then what's the difference between a Christian and a non-Christian? If I can't discern how you handle negativity, how you handle loss, how you handle sadness. You tracking with me? You with me? All right. The next thing, point 4. Work to live, don't live to work. You can do anything in its proper context and balance. But if you're working more than you need to, and you're neglecting your family, your church family, your friends, and the people that you love dearest because you're trying to get things done, I'm not saying this is an assignment. I'm saying above and beyond what you need to. Because you throw out yourself in your work and that's all you're focused on, day and night and day. First of all, that will kill you. I've seen many people check out way too early with heart attacks, stress, biometrics are off the charts because they're working, thinking, oh, that's what I need to be doing. They're busy. What you doing? I don't know. I got to be somewhere. Calm down. You're making me nervous. I don't even get nervous. Chill out. But if you're working way too much and you're stressed out, check yourself. Again, you're working to get a check, and that's great. But if it's overcoming and overtaking your life, is it worth it? If you have all the money in the world, but your health is poor, is it worth it? Can you enjoy money if you're in the hospital? If you're just sick all the time, getting ulcers, your blood pressure's up, you're taking all kinds of things because you've stressed yourself out, chasing something again that's not chasing you. Have the proper balance. And the last point is this. I love this. It says that there are 5 Gospels in the Bible: Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. And the Christian is the most that most people will ever read. So what I ask you and I remind you is you are the 5th Gospel in the Bible. You are the book in the Bible that everybody's going to read more than even the Bible itself. You're that 5th chapter. You're that 5th Gospel. What I mean by that is there's people that you work with that are never going to go to church. Or maybe they went to church, they had a bad experience, and they say, you know what, I'm done with this God person. I had hurt or pain. I'm not going back to church. Many times you're the only one between them and Jesus. Are you a connector or a deflector? So that's why I encourage you to watch what you say, because they're watching you. Watch what you do because they're watching you. Watch how you conduct yourself because people are watching you. And if they know you're a Christian, then they're holding you to the same standard they hold in Jesus. Are you tracking with me? And people are unforgiving, and that's okay. But that's what they're doing. Whether you know it or like it or not, that's how it is. So be mindful of who and what you're doing and what you're saying and who you're hanging out with and the things that you're exposing yourself to. Because people are watching. They're watching if the words that you're saying are Christian, does it align up to your behaviors and to your actions? So you're the 5th book, like it or not. I encourage you to like it. In fact, I want you to smile. Everybody smile like, I'm the 5th book in the Bible. Yeah. Right? So again, as I thought about my travels and my time, those are the 5 points that I want to share with you. I know for many of you, it's a tough place. It's a tough, cold world out there. But we love you here. Pastor loves us. He gives us good teaching every week. But you take that teaching. One of the points I made a couple weeks ago is information is the basis for transformation. I see a lot of you taking notes, but if you don't apply it, Ms. Jan Van Zandt had a great presentation last week. If you don't apply what she's saying, you don't apply what Pastor's saying every week, it's just information. It means nothing. Let it change you. Let it transform you. He's challenging us to take the next level. Take it. And if you don't take it, don't complain. Don't ask God, why is it, God, why are you doing something in my life? Well, he sent Pastor Steve to us to listen, to learn. He sent you in the environments that you are to change the atmosphere. So change. Amen? Amen. All right.
What I want to do for the next few minutes is something that I don't know that I have ever taught. What I'm going to give you these next few minutes, I'm going to carry it over to the first part of next week as we wrap up. But I've really been asking myself too, because I believe this is my assignment. This is what I do. And in fact, I like preaching too. Don't get me wrong. I'd like to be preaching to 1,000 people every Sunday. But I like these settings. I like getting people who want to come out not because it's Sunday morning and they feel like they got to come and go to church. I like teaching in this setting where people can ask questions, where we can really begin to impart some things at a higher level, at a little higher and deeper level. Does that make sense? That we can go a little deeper, that I don't feel like I have to apologize if I say something that's a little deeper and that you understand you can connect the spiritual and the natural. And what these gentlemen shared, I can talk, they can talk about the mountain of business, or we can talk about the mountain of entertainment. You see, what we've learned over the years is that you were created, you're not supposed to run from the dark places. You were created for hard places. You were created to be in those environments and be the thermostat that changes that environment, and not just be one that goes along with everything. But what I want to share with you just a little bit tonight, and more next week. Will you come back next week one more time? Invite somebody with you. That we're going to wrap up a whole lot of stuff next week. But I want to share 5 laws that I've learned over. I've been in ministry about 37 years. I started in 1982 with my dad. We'd gotten married in 1980, and we were going to his church, but we got involved in youth ministry and being an associate, and we were in seasons of preparation during all that time, and not going back through that long history, but 37 years of ministry, plus all the time being involved in the business world and working there and running sales teams and seeing the good, the bad, and the ugly on things that go on in those environments, with a company that went through a bankruptcy and we had to close our doors, and I mean, those were hard days. Those were tough times back in the 80s. But what I want to share with you is through all of those experiences to where I've ended up now and being involved in ministry and still having a foot in the business world as well, 5 laws that have helped me in my personal walk and believing God and seeing things happen. And this isn't one of the 5, but what I want you to understand too is that one of the things that you have in your life is the power of choice. You are where you are today because of choice. And that can be good or bad. But you have made choices in your life that have gotten you to where you are. I don't think in today's world that a lot of people truly understand that, because they want to make whatever choice they want to make, but not have the consequence that goes with it. And one of the underlying principles to this whole thing is you can choose anything you want. And we see that in the world. We see it in Christians. We see it in the way people act. We see it in the way they conduct their life. But they don't want the consequence. You said it earlier, Reggie, about being accountable. People don't want accountability. I want to be able to do what I want and then you not hold me accountable. I want to come in whenever I want and you can't fire me. That's not true. You can want it to be true. You can act any way you want in a marriage. You can act any way you want in a relationship, but it doesn't mean that you're going to get to choose the consequences of that. As a spouse, you can be as mean and ornery as you want to be. It doesn't mean she's going to stay with you. Right? Well, that's not fair. You don't get to choose the consequence. You got to choose, you just don't get to choose the consequence. And if you learn that, it'll help you in your decision making, because you'll look beyond what am I choosing right now, and that goes with what they shared about your time and what you invest your time in and how that affects you and the lack of productivity in your life and the things you may not get done because you chose to devote this amount of time to scrolling and you're not involved in something productive that's going to help your life get better. And I'm going to share a little bit of that next week. I don't understand people that have a hard time paying their bills, but they're at the movies on Saturday afternoon. I don't get it. So you have a choice. You could be out doing something else to generate income. That's not tonight's teaching. I'm really wanting to go there, but that's for next week. You know? Let me share a couple of these laws with you. The first one that I want to share with you is called the law of excellence. These are things that you want to be guiding principles in your life. The law of excellence says, I have the ability to do the very best with what I've been given. So let me define that just a little bit more. Excellence is not having $1 million and being able to, do whatever we want here we'll use the church as an example, on the church property to do what, well, if I had $1 million, then I'd really have excellence. That would be incorrect. If you don't, whatever you have been given, you have the ability to use that thing to have excellence in it. Well, if I had a big house, I'd take care of it. You have the ability to have excellence in the house you have now. Well, if I had a Bentley, man, I'd keep it clean. I'd wash that thing every day. No. Take care of what you have now. Excellence isn't having, a $100,000 car that you can take care of. It's taking care, doing the best with what you have right now. So be thankful and grateful for what you have now, and take care with excellence what you have now. I've endeavored to do that in different aspects. The dictionary says excellence is the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. It's the ability, that's what I said first, with what you've been given. It is also the quality of being outstanding or extremely good. You get to choose whether or not you're going to live a life of excellence. When you walk in excellence, that decision alone will cause you to stand out. I used to listen to a teacher that would come to Louisville, and he would say he learned early on in business and in the church that he didn't have to go very far above the bar to be better than everybody else. He was raised Baptist, and he used the illustration of getting these, I don't know if y'all remember this or not, but they were there when I grew up, we would get these little offering envelopes. And he said, I had just become a Christian. And he said, they gave me this offering envelope. And on the envelope, it had a bunch of little boxes to check. Did you read your Bible? Check. Did you bring your tithe? Check. Did you pray? In a little box for you to check. I don't know who you were turning it into. I don't know if the pastor ever read those. I'm not sure, but we had them. Did you pray? Did you bring your Bible? And there were like 7 or 8 little check marks. He said, I was smart enough. He said, I just gotten saved. I came into church. They give me this envelope. Well, right there on the bottom of the envelope are the 7 keys on how to succeed in this church. He said, I was smart enough. He said, I'd come every Sunday. I'd check, got my Bible. I prayed. I brought my tithe. He said, I didn't see anybody else turning it in. He said, it wasn't hard at all to jump to the top of the leadership in that church because I was doing what the box said. See, that was just excellence. He just checked off what he knew to do. He was just doing what he'd been given to do. It's a decision. One of the issues is we have to be okay with not being like everybody else. Because not everybody is going to be thrilled with your decision to walk in excellence. Not everybody thinks that we ought to be particular about little things. But I think we should be. when I came here many years ago, they did not start services on time. That was a thing in church. They didn't start on time in lots of churches. And so happened here. Well, I was coming out of corporate America. We started on time. In about 17 years with the company, I was late to one meeting because of traffic that was up in Fort Wayne, Indiana. And man, there were three of us. We walked in late, and they're like, Louisville's late. Louisville's never late. Like, well, we were today, but one time. Why? Because we had set a standard for excellence back to the church starting on time. So the first Sunday I was here, I'd come out of corporate America, and I come out, service I think started at, 10. Well, I come out, it's like 5 till, I'm looking around, ain't nobody on the stage. Oh, no choir? Well, we have a choir, where are they? I don't know. So I did what I know to do. I grabbed the microphone, I said, hey, it's good to see everybody here today. We're getting ready to start our music. There ain't a musician on the stage. We're getting ready to start our music, and I literally, from the back, I see the choir members starting to run down the aisle. They are jumping up on the stage trying to get there. I got musicians diving over. We used to have the rail, diving over the rail, trying to jump over to get to the guitar, get to the drums, get to the microphones. I told them afterwards, I said, that's the last time you won't be on the stage before I get there. And they were like, yes, sir. Why? Because I wasn't mean about it, but I was setting a standard for excellence. I grew up listening to men who would speak into my life, and they would teach me. They said, now look, you might be a good teacher, but if your bathrooms are dirty, your visitors aren't coming back. So you be as good as you want to be, but if that bathroom stinks, those ladies aren't coming back. So you better send somebody in the bathroom to spray it down before everybody gets there. Or at least after a few of them leave there, or whatever. I'm just saying. All right, look, I said I'm not apologizing. All right, so that would be the men's. All right, we'll go with that. That'll be okay. But my point is that, and we would have people that would come, and they would say, how do you get things? It looks like everything's in order here. How do you make that? Because I've preached excellence. I've tried to live by that law. I've tried to do things I was taught young, and I didn't understand it. I understand it more even the older I get. You do the things that are appropriate. You do what's appropriate. You handle those things. You have that excellence in your life. Having excellence is that you got to learn to lead yourself. It's our action. It's our conduct. It's how we act out in not just in public, but our lifestyle of just this is the way we conduct our life. We have integrity in what we do. We have excellence in what we do. We have credibility to what we do. And the truth is, a lot of Christians have acted without excellence out in the world so much that the world doesn't want to do business with Christians. Because so many of them will say, I tell you what, the last person I want to deal with is a Christian. That's wrong. That's a wrong mindset. Well, they don't want to pay any price. They don't want to do anything. They don't want to act on that. It used to be a big thing when I was growing up that a lot of places would give preachers discounts. They, get a haircut. You knew somebody who had shoes or do this, and they talk about giving the preacher a discount. And man, I was taught, you don't ever ask for that. That's not who you are. You come at a higher price than that. You walk at a higher level than that. Why? Because I'm believing God. I don't need to ask for discounts. I don't have to negotiate. Lisa and I, and this is just life. I'm just talking life principles. Years ago, we went to the Bahamas on vacation, and they had street vendors out there, and you'd go out and And they'd say, now you go out there and you negotiate with them. Don't you pay what they're asking. You negotiate. They'll bring their price down. Okay? So we'd go visit the street vendors. And they had a little, pastor wanted a puka shell necklace. You're old school if you know what a puka shell necklace is. I got 2 of them in my jewelry box at home. I'm going to drag them out on Island Sunday again. He wanted $4. A 12-year-old kid selling puka shell necklace for $4. And they told me, you need to offer him 2. I said, I ain't offering him 2. Well, why not? Because he needs to make a living. I can afford $4. But you could get it for 2. I don't need $2 that bad. I ain't broke. I definitely ain't $2 broke. I mean, I might not be rich, but I ain't $2 broke. So I'm going to give him the extra $2. And they were shocked. Because everybody around me is like, I'll give you $1. Well, I'll take 3. What about 2? Okay, we'll do it. We'll settle on 2. Come on. It's a higher level of excellence that we have in ourselves. And particularly, I didn't want to offer him $2 and then invite him to the nearby church to go to the church where they're cheap. Go to cheap church. You understand what I'm saying? Is this making any sense? So there is a law of excellence. It will set you apart. I don't want to be like everybody else. I don't want to be like the guys that I used to have to room with at the conventions, and they were acting like heathens. And I've told that story, and they were older than I was, but they sure didn't act it. I didn't want to be that. I wanted to be distinguished. The Bible says that Joseph was a man of excellence. It said Daniel and his friends they distinguished themselves in the king's court because of who they were, because of the excellent spirit that they had on them. When you have an excellent spirit, you'll be distinguished. That's how you get to the top. You don't do what everybody else does. You do things that they won't do. You show up when nobody else does. You're there when everybody else is gone. You're still there making sure everything's okay. We ought to operate at that higher level than others who are not committed to excellence. We shouldn't be like everybody else. Does that make sense? All right, let me tell you the second law, and then we'll be done for tonight. I've got 3 more I'm going to share with you next week. The second one is this. It's called the law of favor. And I may teach on this Sunday. I'm debating about some of that. But the law of favor means approval, support, goodwill, above and beyond kindness or preference. You have and you can operate your life in supernatural favor. The favor of God on your life. The word favor means to endorse. So when you operate in God's favor, and this is something you need to apply into your life, that God's favor is endorsing you. Now, this isn't just true in business, even though we've talked a lot about that tonight. Favor in your marriage, favor on your kids, favor in every walk of life that you have. You need to believe the law of favor is in your life. It is available to every believer to operate in the favor of God. Favor will open doors for you that you cannot open on your own. Favor is a secret weapon that not everybody has. They have it, they don't operate in it. So when you are going into that meeting, when you are dealing with the situation about maybe you're trying to find a house, that you would have the favor of God on you to find the right house. So you'd find the right car, whatever it might be, that you would have favor that is going to open up doors to allow you to meet the right people. Two different kinds of people. People that God is bringing into your life that you're to bless, and people coming into your life that God has ordained to bless you. So it's not that we're looking to just get something, but my why is, God, you are placing me with favor in surroundings that I'm going to be a blessing to someone. And when we understand that law of favor, things begin to happen for you that could not happen outside the realm of God's favor. Pastor Winston says, you wearing favor like a coat, favor will surround you, and you'll begin to experience benefits that you ordinarily would not get. We have a lady in our church, we have lots of testimonies about this, but one I remember clearly is she kept getting passed over for promotion. And so she started declaring, after she heard these messages about favor, that she would operate in favor on her job. Well, there turned out to be a lot of turnover and transition, and I don't know if some got bought out, I don't remember all the detail, but she ended up running a department that people that reported to her had far more experience and education than what she had. What they didn't have was the favor of God. And it does set you apart. It'll help you in places that you didn't otherwise know. Let me close with a little bit of this testimony that you may or may not have heard. Favor is what allowed me to have whatever measure of success that I had in business with the industrial company that I was allowed to have. Because I ran I opened 3 branches for a national chain of industrial suppliers. And I opened the one in Louisville. We grew it. I needed to open one in Elizabethtown, so we went and got a building and we opened one there, and then we needed to open one over in Madison, Indiana, and so we opened that one there as well. During the about 14, 15 years I was there. But here's the thing, this is how favor works. It was a mechanical industrial supply company. You are looking at the least mechanical person that you could find. I don't do projects around my house, not because I don't want to, because I don't know how to. I can't. Whatever little project Lisa and I have done together, it is the grace of God that we didn't kill each other. And not because of her, but because of me, because I have no skill and very little patience for that sort of thing. So I ran a mechanical supply company without a whole lot of education about it. I did have a degree in business, and I understood, income statements and all that side of it. So what I knew that I needed to do was go hire people smarter than me. So I began to hire people that knew the mechanical side. They weren't going to run the business side of it. So I went and I got, back in the late 80s, the business that I had gone to work for closed. Through favor, through somebody saying, well, do you know this guy? No, I don't know this guy. Well, I heard they want to open in Louisville. Favor, things just started happening. I was talking to the right people, not because I knew it. God just started positioning people. Said, well, you need to call this guy. So I called this guy. I didn't know who he was. They said, call this guy Bob, and they called his last name. So I called. I said, Mr. So-and-so, I understand you guys want to open in Louisville. I worked for this company before. They've closed. Yeah, we heard they closed. Yeah, we'd like to talk to you. I'm like, okay. He's like, can you meet me tomorrow in Cincinnati? Absolutely, yes. So I met him. Then I went to Indianapolis and interviewed. In like 3 days, God took me from a bankruptcy situation to working for a multi-million-dollar corporation that had all sorts of money and could throw money into a market and make it work. That was favor. So I began to hire people that were smarter than me. But here's what I've seen again, even in the last week. I couldn't go in and wow them with my intellect on mechanical things. And I dealt with maintenance supervisors. I dealt with guys who knew how to turn wrenches and do all of this stuff. Some of them used to come to the church here, and they were the maintenance supervisors at some of these companies. But I would stand outside, And I'd say, Lord, I need favor with that company. Lord, I need favor. I don't know how to get in there. I'm not smart enough to wow them with that. But God, you can give me favor over that. I would do it over all sorts of businesses. One of them that I would, this is again back maybe late 80s, early 90s. And I would go and I'd pass by the Ford truck plant out there. I'd say, Lord, I know that's a good account. And I believe your people ought to have that. And Lord, I'll be faithful over it. And I'll, whatever I make, I'm a tither and I'm a giver. And I'd just speak to it every time I drove by it. And I'd call on them and really wouldn't get anywhere. But then one day they had a problem. I'm about done. One day they had a problem that their current supplier could have, but wouldn't take care of a problem that had shut the plant down. What does she do? She looks over on the corner of her desk and there's little Stevie Turpin's card. Well, he said they've got all sorts of stuff. I didn't even have an office here. They didn't know, they had a local number, but it rang up in Columbus, Indiana. The phone rings up in Columbus. My guy answers the Louisville line. It's Ford Motor on the line. Thank God he was smart enough. They never called us before. She said, hey, this part is down in our plant and we're losing $14,000 a minute. Do you all have this part? And he checked. He said, ma'am, I don't have that part, but I have this part and it works just the same. She said, really? He's like, yeah, no problem at all. She said, how quick can I get it? He said, I'm going to have it there to you in about an hour. Because he's like, we'll throw it in a cab, we'll do whatever. I don't know if I had it, I don't remember all those details. We got the part out there. The next day, I'm pretty sure we had those brick cell phones by then. How many know they're like this long? About that thick. You had to hold it like with two hands. Had the big old antenna out the end. It rings. It's the buyer from Ford Motor. She said, Steve, we'd like to see you in our office this afternoon. Favor. That's all it was. It wasn't like, oh, I'm so good and I'm so slick and I went in there and wowed them. I couldn't wow them. But favor could. Fast forward. So we ended up with the contract there. We ended up with a contract at the LAP, the Louisville Assembly Plant. We opened offices in the truck plant, not in the LAP at the time. We had an office there. They loved us. Fast forward. I've left the company. I'm here. In the last 4 months, and last week was the last one. No, actually, I just now remember. 3 of the people that I hired 30 years ago, they invited me to their retirement parties from Motion Industries. All because the Lord told me to pray favor. Now that favor, here's the thing you got to understand. Favor doesn't just stop with you. I got blessed. But every one of them came up to me during this time of their different retirements, said, thank you for hiring me. As soon as I walked in the door there last week, the guy that was retiring came up and he said, do you remember the day you interviewed me and I agreed to take the job? He said, I looked at you and I said, I'm 30 years old. I'm going to give you 30 years. And he said, it is almost 30 years to the day. And it was like within a week. 30 years to the day. And they took me in a room. After I left, they showed me on the wall, it's all these plaques of all the awards that they've won. All the money, all the commissions these guys have made. Not just because of Ford, but all the other companies that did business. Some of those guys started making good money because one guy, and don't misunderstand what I'm saying, because it wasn't me. It was that I understood favor. And now favor will extend to other people. Some of them aren't even believers. But they got blessed because there was a believer in the house. And there are places, and to this day, and in fact, they introduced me to the guy taking over for the guy that was retiring who took over the Ford account from me. So now there is, I mean, we're not related, but there is a third generational, and this guy's he looked to be 30, again, taking over the Ford account, who had no idea that all that started because I pointed at the Ford plant and said, I speak favor over that plant, and 30 years later, there's a guy going to make in excess of 6 figures because I stood there. The Lord told me to operate in favor, the law of favor, that had to work. It's a law. It's not a wish. It's a law that favor is going to surround you. It'll be on your kids. It'll be on your grandkids. I mean, they can mess it up. I get it. But you can speak it. You can confess favor. You ought to confess favor every day. One of those prayers Pastor Ken talked about. Include favor in that. I've given you favor confessions over the years. Either you believe it or you don't. Either you read it or you don't. I don't. But if you don't complain. Whichever one of y'all said that. Don't complain. If you ain't reading it, don't complain you don't have any favor. Well, it doesn't work for me. Oh, it's working, just in reverse. And favor will help you be a better spouse. Favor will help you be a better business person. It'll help you on your job. It'll help you everywhere you go. Favor will operate. Does that make sense? Those are only 2. I've got 3 more that I'm going to share with you next week. Some of them, this is going to be one of the last ones I teach you. The law of recognition. It's huge. When Mike Murdoch taught that to me, it changed the way I perceived everything.
I trust this teaching from Next Level Life has helped you, as our goal is to encourage you to pursue your dreams, your goals, your passions, and how am I going to live life at that next level. So I hope you enjoyed it. Join us next week again as we share some more thoughts with you on how you are going to enjoy your next level. We'll see you next week.